What's going on, everyone? Welcome back from the weekend, and welcome to the Monday, November 20th edition of the NBA Lineup Generator video. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. We have an 8-game NBA slate tonight to walk through using the Lineup Generator tool. We're going to do that for DraftKings. We're going to do that for FanDuel. But first, make sure that you like this video. Give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Give it a like on Twitter if you're watching it there. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you get an alert whenever our shows go live. We're going to start with DraftKings here. And we're going to go to contrarian lineups. That's the first option that you have. All lineups, chalky lineups, balanced lineups, contrarian lineups. We're going to take a look at contrarian lineups that you would be playing in your large field tournaments. I don't generally lock players here, but this is an option that's available to you. If you are playing, let's say, one lineup, you want Norm Powell, for example, may as well save yourself some time and make sure that every lineup that is presented has him, but we're not doing that. And now we're going to get into the lineups. If you're not already familiar with this tool, it's sort of similar to a dating app in that we do all the work for you on the back end. We use our player projections, ownership projections, simulation models, and then we present you with individual lineups that we project to be profitable over the long run. And then you can select the ones that you do or you don't like, and you have some customization options as well. This first lineup, you can see here, uses all of the salary, 250.2 projected DraftKings points, 101.4% aggregate ownership. And then down here at the bottom, you can see on a sliding scale how those numbers rank, because a fantasy projection and aggregate ownership doesn't actually mean anything by itself. It's how it compares to other lineups. And so you can see here that it projects well relative to other lineups, and it is relatively contrarian on the second sliding scale here. You can see the individual players. And then one of those customization options that I was referring to are these arrows over here at the right. Let's say you look at this lineup and you really love the lineup, but you don't like Trey Jones, which is a perfectly reasonable stance. You can click the arrows here. He's $5,000, so you just scroll down to the $5,000 options, and you see up here Trey Jones ownership projection and fantasy point projection. And then here you can see the fantasy point and ownership projections for the alternatives. So, for example, you can just swap Reggie Jackson in, and now you have Reggie Jackson instead of Trey Jones. Your lineup is a little bit less contrarian, but still looks pretty good. Very similar projection. So I'm going to go back to Trey Jones, but that is how you would do that if you were so inclined. Now I'm going to save the first 20 lineups that show up, and then we can take a look at our overall player exposures and another way that you can customize your lineup. So I'm going to click View Saved Lineups. And now over here on the left-hand side, you have the 20 lineups that you saved. And over here, you have your player exposures. Kristaps Porzingis coming in 45% of our lineups. He's our highest owned guy. Sabonis at 35%, Jayshawn Tate at 35%. No Tari Eason tonight for the Rockets, so Tate hopefully sees a little bit more playing time. Terrence Mann, who is now a starter for the Clippers, still only played 21 minutes last game. The playing time is going to be volatile. He also isn't likely to play a very big role offensively, but he is still only $4,000, and we do need some value on a slate that has Nikola Jokic, who's in 30% of our lineups. Getting to Mike Conley at 5,100, getting to some Miles Bridges, who's been playing a big role off the bench immediately. Bilal Coulibaly as a value option at 4,600. $3,300-ish Smith popping up a little bit. I don't really know what to make of that one. That's something that will probably go away by lock. Right now, we have him projected for 17 minutes, 14.5 DraftKings points. We're probably just going to be able to find something better than that by the time 7 o'clock rolls around. Norman Powell playing relatively big minutes off the bench for the Clippers in 25% of our lineups. DeRozan and Duarte in 25% as well. Duarte, we have a questionable Kevin Huerter. Herter's status is certainly going to impact Duarte, as well as just the status of other players. As we get more guys ruled out on different teams, Duarte is going to look less appealing if Herter is in. But we did get Duarte starting yesterday, playing 30-plus minutes. He's only $3,100. So if Herter were out, this would be arguably the best value play on the slate. The other customization option that I was referring to was, let's say you look at this and you like Kristaps Porzingis, but you don't want 45% of him. The field right now on DraftKings is getting to about 11%. So let's say you wanted to cut this down to 30%, get rid of 3 of your 20 Porzingis lineups. All you have to do is click his name over here on the right-hand side. It's going to highlight all of your Kristaps Porzingis lineups, and then you can go through and find the ones that you like the least and remove him. And there's 2 different ways to remove him. First, you could just use the arrows like I showed before, or you can just go in here, discard the lineup, and then, so I'm going to discard 3 lineups, and then go back to get more lineups, and it's going to bring you back to the previous screen where you're presented with lineups. Grab the first 3 lineups that do not have Porzingis, and now we are down to 30% Porzingis like we wanted to be. So that is something that you should be aware of on the right-hand side. You can, manipulate your exposures a bit that way. And all of the lineups that you're presented with, again, are projected to be profitable lineups. So you're not necessarily losing any value excuse me, by doing that. So that's, another customization option you have. Now we can look at these lineups individually. We can take a look at this one here. LaMelo Ball projects for 251.3 fantasy points, 82% ownership. So a pretty contrarian lineup. LaMelo Ball, 9,900, only getting 5% ownership. Jordan Poole, 16% owned at shooting guard. Christian Brown, 6% owned as a $4,500 small forward option. Jabari Smith at 7%. Porzingis at 11. Paul George at 18%. Chris Duarte at 4. And Jayshawn Tate at 13. Again, this is Duarte with Kevin Huerter projected in. Still showing up in lineups just because we don't have a ton of value at the moment. Now we're going to go back and take a look at FanDuel. We're going to do the same thing. But first, if you want to use this tool for yourself, which I highly recommend, you can sign up using the link below in the description on YouTube or the link below on Twitter. Highly recommend this. It's the best bang for your buck, most cost-efficient way to get access to our data. It makes sense if you're a single entry, 3 max, 20 max player, you don't play a ton of money every night. It can be really difficult sometimes to subscribe to products, whether they're ours, other sites, whatever it may be. It can be very difficult to subscribe to products and then still give yourself a chance to be profitable, no matter how good those tools are. If you're outlaying a ton of money to get access to them and you're only playing like $50, $60 a night, it's very, very difficult to make that money back. So we created the lineup generator. It's only $14.95 per week. It is perfect for you if you're a lower volume, lower bankroll player, or you're playing a limited number of lineups. It's perfect. Highly recommend checking it out. Now we're going to take a look at FanDuel. And again, we're going to go with the contrarian lineups. We're not going to lock anybody. And we're going to save the first 20 and then see how things look different than things look than they do on DraftKings. Obviously, pricing is different, roster construction is different. So generally, you're going to see some different names showing up. And Jayshawn Tate at 3,900 is showing up 85% of the time here. He is projected to be the third highest owned guy on FanDuel at 32%. We're getting to Paul George, Zion, two very, very obvious strong plays. Zion at 8K, projected to be the second highest owned guy on the slate. George is fourth. Peyton Pritchard at 4,100 with no Derek White. He's showing up a bit. Jokic at 12.8. Obviously, you're going to be happy to get to him. Same goes for Giannis. Porzingis looks good. We have a $4,700 price tag on Dillon Brooks. That's pretty appealing given how many minutes Brooks plays. Power forward eligibility for Zach Collins. He's showing up 30% of the time. Looks like a very good option. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, guys that were really, really difficult to get to on DraftKings, look quite a bit better at their respective salaries on FanDuel. And then Jordan Hawkins at 5,200, showing up 25% of the time as well. And now we can look at this first lineup here. Projects for 296.5 fantasy points, 162% aggregate ownership. Keep in mind there is one more player in your FanDuel lineup than there is on DraftKings, so your aggregate ownership numbers are just going to skew higher than they do on DraftKings. In this lineup, we have a 7% owned Curry, so we have a contrarian piece there. Drew Holiday at 26% looks good at 7K. Paul George at 30%. Alex Caruso, 5,100, getting 8% ownership. We have a 1% owned Brandon Miller. Not a great play, but perfectly fine in a lineup here or there. Very favorable $5,200 price tag on Andrew Wiggins, getting 15% ownership. Zion at 8K, getting 37%. Jayshawn Tate getting 32%. And then we have another contrarian piece in Nikola Vucevic. Should be a low-scoring game against Miami, but still a high upside option at only 7,700. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for checking out the video. Sign up using the link below, and good luck on your lineups tonight.